Okay, question 11 to 20. And hopefully we'll try and do this in 10 minutes. That's sort of the idea. Okay, so we're here still focused on big data. And again, think of big data as information we're drawing out in from the internet and from our relationship managers. Think of Amazon's sort of way of capturing data of all its clients that it's dealing with. When I say clients, if you like, it's customers, and having access to information happening around the world at the same time in the news. So decisions which include big data analytics, which is us analyzing this data, can lead to a competitive edge over rivals. And that's just sort of, I guess from a business point of view, true. It's not unique, I think, to accounting. It's just true. Big data and analytics cannot account for competitors' expected actions. Well, that also seems true. That's just the information about the data. And people external to us may choose to behave in their own sort of expected, unpredictable ways. So we cannot know how competitors will behave. So 2 is not correct. 1 is correct. And so the answer here is A. 11 is A. I think I create a new. Question 11 is A. Right? So that's what has to happen. That's what will happen there. Let's go on here. Let's look at question 12. It says, which 2 of the following are thought to be benefits of using big data to enhance business decisions? There is no need for have a deep understanding. That's not true. In order to be able to utilize this information, you need to have a deep understanding. So that's not true. CRM can be improved, resulting in better repeat business and customer loyalty. I've used Amazon as a great example. That is true. Business performance can be tracked and analyzed against a wider set of criteria. Of course, you have all the data there. You're analyzing it. And all available big data will create value. That's not true. So the key point is data has to be, if you like, relevant and specific to that. There's just so much data in general. Sometimes you just don't need things. It's about cleaning the data and making it relevant. So 2 and 3, the second point and the third point, question 12, if you like, the second point and the third point, if you like, are relevant. The relevant answers. Okay, right, let's carry on. Here we are. Question 13. Which of the following is not considered a risk when using big data to enhance business decision making? So I'm going to do this the other way and sort of look at what are the risks of using big data to enhance business decisions. The risk, if you like, here is, well, first of all, the veracity, the randomness. It's quick, it's erratic, it's difficult to assess, and that's true. That is a risk when you sort of go with this type of thing, when you're dealing with big data. I'm going to go to C. The data may be distorted by data outliers. There's a lot of it. You'll have all these additional pieces of information coming in and sort of giving you abnormal information. So that's a risk as well. And there is a risk that you may spend all this money implementing all these wonderful tools, and yet you get some benefit, but you have spent so much more. And maybe you don't need this level of analysis with the work you're looking at. So this one, traditional sources of data I ignored. This is not a real risk. You have that data to hand, your newspapers, your statistical magazines. Probably I think a lot of the external data is still drawing on some of those traditional sources of data being ignored. So I wouldn't say this was a major risk. So the answer here ends up being B, really by a process of elimination. We're really looking at the most obvious cases where risks would be. So question 13 here is B. Right. Question 14. Sorry, my mouse is just misbehaving. Let me just fix that. Here we are. Okay, sources of information. So we're looking at sources and information. information. All in chapter 2 and 3. Please make sure you've read those before attempting these. Identify by placing a tick whether the information is gathered as an internal, so whether it's coming from the organization or kind of our own remit of work, or external to us, so kind of out there. So interviewing potential. So we're talking about the external. Reading business magazine. This is external, isn't it? It's external to us. Listing employee records from the company. So this is internal, right? And looking through sales records for the last year. So these are our own records for the last year. So EEII, right? External, internal, external, internal. Okay, good stuff. So good question 15. Which of the following statements regarding the use of external information is true? So, external information is usually more reliable than internal information. This is an open statement. I think it's a bit, I think in the context of management accounting, or just due to the veracity and the velocity of external information. I mean, sometimes you read some of these people aggregating news and picking what they want. I don't want to call it fake news, clearly, but the point is that news now can be manipulated, so one has to be very careful with external information. From the context of general management accounting, I would argue that this is not the case. With audit, for example, though, if this was a case in audit, yes, then we would argue that getting external information from related third parties is much more reliable than hearing from the management themselves. But this is the different context. So one is not true. External information can be vague. That's correct. General and vague, it may not really help the decision making. So that randomness of external information with it still has to be analyzed. This is true. So two is correct. Just 2. So the answer here is B. 15 is B. Sorry. Is B. Let's do question 16. Question 7. I'm trying to see if I can keep it under 10 minutes. Let's see if we can do that. That would be good. Question 20. All right. Let's see if we can do that. Keep. Okay, great. Question 16. Which of the following would show information on the frequency of machine breakdowns causing lost production? I thought this was an interesting question in that, depending on the organization. So definitely A is, that doesn't help you with anything. It's just a list of assets. The machine maintenance schedule. Now, it's possible to argue that if you look at how often and how regularly, so if a machine is breaking down more often, chances are it'll be undergoing more and more maintenance. So typically, if you like, you could argue that, well, I could infer some correlation between the frequency of breakdown and lost production. Production output reports as well, definitely, if you will see that if there's been machine breakdown, or if there's a breakdown somewhere, you will see some correlation between a fall in output, and you'd have to ask yourself what's actually going on. The interesting thing here, I think, is because the endpoint is lost production, it does make sense to come to the production output reports as opposed to just looking at the machine maintenance schedule. They could just have chosen to, that's the problem you see with this thing, they could just have chosen to do less miss a new machine, so the frequency of the maintenance might have reduced, or they might have, as in having less labor, or they might have less labor available, or they might suddenly have more labor available and deviate. So they might be maintaining it more, but that doesn't naturally mean that you have, if you like, it's because it's breaking down more often. So the best place really to look at is to look at the production output report, right? So the answer is C. But I can empathize if you went for B. Okay, so D is wishing to improve staff morale, to create an online questionnaire. This will take 30 minutes. They'll have to do this at lunch break. So it says which of these are considered an indirect cost. So a direct cost is a cost we almost have to incur, almost a new kind of a relevant cost, I would actually argue. A relevant cost. An irrelevant cost is an actual new cost that has come about as a result of wanting to do this, not an in-house cost that will occur as a result of people who are already within the organization. So there's an area we will study on relevant costing. And this is really one of those classic scenarios. So paying for an external consultancies come in and do this is an external cost. Yes, paying wages for people to email staff with instructions on how to complete the survey. Yes, this is an external. So you're almost bringing in externals to come and do this thing. Loss of staff morale. This is internal to the organization here, if you like. So definitely this is, and you can't quite quantify it from a monetary point of view as well. So definitely this loss of staff morale due to loss of lunch break, break time is definitely correct. Delays caused in other parts of the business due to staff filling in the surveys when they should be working. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I mean, that is internal. And you can't quite quantify it as well. But here's the thing: they're doing it during their lunch break, so it's not like they were doing it when they should be working. So I think that was the little trick there. But I appreciate if they had been doing it when they were working, this would have worked. But the answer here, therefore, is 3, right? So when I say 3, this one. So the answer is A. So 17 is A. Okay, great. Let's go. So 18. Which of the following is the most reliable source of information on country's inflation? Yes, I mean, if you've read through this, definitely the government, the National Audit, the Office of Statistics, keeping information on RPIs and CPIs is definitely, these are definitely the best sources of information regarding inflation rates. So 18 is D. 18 is D. Let's look at 19. Qualities of good information contained in reports are more easy to remember using the mnemonic accurate. So information, yes, we want it to be understandable, we want it to be accurate, adaptable, of course, acceptable, not really. The information is objective, so you take it and accept it. But when it says acceptable to the user, it's almost like dependent on the needs of the user. Oh no, not dependent on the needs of the user. The user must be happy with it, if you like. No, not necessarily. It's not about moral. There's nothing moral about it. It's just the subjective information. So the answer here is B. It's not typically. This is not one of the assertions or the points that we associate with the quality of good information. So 19 is B. And let's finish off with 20. Again, this one looks at the quality of, this one looks at the this question of indirect costs again. It's like an interesting one. I thought they could have given us some more information. So it says, but just their answer is justified when you sort of see where they're going. CPLC produces game apps. These vary from free games, paid games with monthly subscriptions. The marketing department wish to gather more info. One suggestion is to get customers to complete these forms in a way by earning credit. They normally require payment. So if they if in the process of doing this, I just think of myself going in and you start asking me to fill out these forms now. It is possible, definitely. So the direct cost, almost the direct loss straight away, almost that we can actually quantify direct loss, so to speak, monetary loss here is that if you lose customers, these people have typically been, they have subscribed, now you've lost out on that funding, if you like. So, and this is also a direct loss as well in terms of money. So 3 and 4 are definitely direct. What I wasn't sure about here was, when I read this, was who was going to be doing this, who was going to be developing the survey, and who was going to develop the system. And it didn't say in the question that they were going to bring in anyone. So in a way, you almost have to assume that it's the marketing department. The marketing department already paid a salary. It's already in-house. It's indirect because, per se, there is no new additional cost as a result of the marketing for working on the project. So these are the indirect costs here, 1 and 2. So indirect costs, if you like, are, again, we almost cannot, they're not typically monetary per se, just like we had with the loss of morale. They're already inherent within the organization. But these are clear, direct monetary, direct costs that we would have to think about, kind of the same way we thought about bringing in the external consultants, I think, in question 17. So the answer here is C, 1 and question C, 1 and 1 and 1 and 1 and 2. Cool, great stuff. That's 15 minutes. We seem to be doing them in 15 minutes. Probably that might have to be our average, but there you are. So question 11 to 20 done.